Good day all. My name is Charles Kidega Ochaya. I'm a lecturer. Now, let's start off by understanding what creative thinking is. Creative thinking is actually coming up with new things or ideas. And it's very useful when you're dealing with real practical problems at the workplace. For example, conflict amongst employees. When you're a project manager, you need to find new ways of solving problems as they come. In today's industry, it is a highly desired skill, the ability to think creatively. Now, creative thinking means looking at something in a new way. Sometimes they'll say thinking outside the box. I think you know that exercise, that drill, where you have to put in some crosses in a box without lifting your hands from the box. So the only way you can solve that is by drawing outside the box, and then you'll be able to complete the box without removing your hands or without removing your pen from the paper. So in that way, you are solving the problem of thinking within the box only. Now, sometimes creative thinking is referred to as lateral thinking. This is different from linear thinking, right? Linear thinking tends to be more logical and in a straight line, whereas lateral thinking, you are thinking horizontally on a horizontal plane rather than a forward thinking and on a straight line. Now, creative thinking helps you to perceive patterns which are not so obvious. You'll be able to notice things that otherwise you would not have noticed and come up with very good solutions which are novel, which are new, unthought of. In practice, you have artists who are considered to be very creative. In the marketing arena, you have people who design logos, designers. They have to imagine, they have to have a concept in their minds and come up with an original drawing which has not yet been developed anywhere by anyone. So it requires great imagination. Artists also, artistic creativity also finds its avenue in writing up adverts. Say you are writing an advert that is to be aired on BTV or radio. You need to be very creative because also the time limit will be very, very short and very, very costly at the same time. Another arena where creativity is desired or highly desirable is in the area of packaging. You know that companies always want to package a product or wrap it up in a very nice package which will be attractive to the customer. And this nice packaging sets the company apart from the competitors. So if you can wrap design a nice wrapper, whatever it is, be it sweets, be it gift packages, but you'll have a better chance of winning if the packaging is very, very good. So artistic creativity counts there. Now let's start looking at ways of doing creative problem solving. There are some areas where creative problem solving is very useful. For example, during budget crisis, when there's a budget crisis within a company, or even at national level, your expenditures are more than your revenue, right? Then you need to find ways of cutting costs, minimizing costs, eliminating some unnecessary or unusual expenses, and that requires imagination. Another area where creative problem solving helps is when you have to try and improve the productivity of staff. This entails maybe motivating them, coming with incentives, and reviewing the whole structure of rewarding the employees so that you get the best from them. As you know, as you've already studied, salary alone may not be enough to get the best from employees. You may need to also look at other incentives and working conditions, for example. You could also think of restructuring filing systems, the way you catalog, the way you arrange the system that you're using, computer. Do you have an information system in place or not? For the ease of retrieval of files and documents. You can imagine if you have Bureau and Office which deal with so many applications, then you need to have a filing system in place, and often that would mean even overhauling or removing the old systems to put in new ones. Another area is an attempt to improve customer service. Customers are the backbone of the organization. Without customers, the organization will not thrive. So anything that will help you improve customer service is a plus. It will benefit the organization in terms of retaining the customer over their lifetime. So this module, CRI, is really about creative problem solving as opposed to just critical thinking. You want to find ways of being creative. Right? Now we'll have to go over that and understand what is meant by being creative. Before we go there, let's understand how people perceive the world, what kind of thinking approach they use. Psychologists and experts in the past have found that people differ in their approach to thinking. Interestingly. This diagram, called the whole-brain model, was developed by another thinker, another psychologist, who was able to classify approaches that people use for thinking. And he found that the approaches that people prefer to use will be highly specific to that individual. For example, some people are more analytical in nature, whereas others are more futuristic. They look to the future, they want to understand, they want to imagine what will happen in the future. Others are more in touch with their feelings. They believe in the feeling. If the feeling is not right, they will not go with that idea. Others tend to live more in form. They want to see substantive things. They live in administrative things, organizational approaches. Forms and formats. Are they there or not? Okay. You could also look at this model from this diagram and Those who are more factual believe in efficiency. They want to see the numbers, the facts. Where are the facts? Where are the financials? Where are the records? Right? They are more technology-oriented hardware systems. They want to see the hardware and so on. Performance, metrics. Where are the metrics? Where are the numbers? Where are the goals? Where are the objectives? Those ones are the ones who are more factually oriented. Also, people are more futuristic. They want to foresee, they want to forecast trends that are coming beforehand. Okay, what is the state of competition? Who are the competitors? Who are the new entrants, the future entrants, potential entrants? What is the environment, the pestle environment? Okay, what does it hold important for us going forward? Right? They tend to be strategic in nature. Those of futuristic also tend to be strategic, whereby they want to have long-term plans, development plans, 20-year goals, 30-year goals, not only short-term orientation but long-term orientation. And then those who believe in feelings, or those who are more feel or gut-oriented, want to believe in teamwork. They believe in developing relations, customer relations, communicating things, and trying to gauge reactions from the customers or stakeholders, right? And then finally, this whole brain model, those who believe in form, like I said already, are looking for formats. They're looking for policy, prescriptions. Where are the prescriptions? Where are the forms that have to be filled? And then who authorizes? And then also quality assurance, right? They look for substantive things which will minimize risk. Now, when you try to apply that model to innovation, you think of 4 innovation styles, and this diagram summarizes it nicely. If I can read this text, it says that each of us has different habits, talents, knowledge, values, and ways of expressing ourselves. Okay. Now, this model shows that essentially, when you classify them, you could have the following innovation styles. Those who believe in visioning, those who are looking into the future, they're looking to the future. Like I already said, they want to forecast the future, right? They're looking ahead, the future competition, future conditions, the environmental conditions, and so on, and plan ahead. Come up with long-term plans, development plans, to mitigate those risks that are forthcoming. Then you have those who innovate by modifying. Modifying means that to change the look of something, to change its structure, to change its form, you're modifying it, right? If you had a pen and then you have a bent one, then you've modified it. It's no longer straight. It's just a curved pen for whatever reason that might be, right? And that is creativity. There might be reasons for it, and someone might buy it because of that. Now, those who modify, refine and optimize what has come before. They change what has been developed before and find new uses for that. Okay. Then those who believe in exploring, they discover new and novel possibilities. What are the new ideas? What is completely new that has not been thought of before? This is the area of exploring. They want to find out new ideas, new concepts which will be the next big thing. They're always looking for the next big thing. All right, and that's a very, very important thing in innovation. Experimentation. Now, experimentation combine and test different factors. You bend, you straighten, you panel beat, you know, something which has you change it into different ways by experimentation. Just like in experiments, you don't know what the outcome will be. It may actually be something which cannot work, but you try nonetheless. If a car has 4 wheels, why not try 3? You see? Or why you have a bicycle, why not try a tricycle? Yeah, those are experiments, and it is a step in the right direction towards innovation as well. Now, creativity can be thought of as being adaptive or innovative. It can either be classified as being adaptive or innovative. In the last slide, a great deal of what was being done was of the adaptive kind. Adapting means modifying old things to make something new. Adapting it, right? Maybe you have a current problem and you are adapting a tool so that you can solve the current problem. It's like a bit like doing new old ideas for new current problems. So you are adapting it to solve current problems. So you're doing old tasks better, right? Then you have creativity can also be in the form of innovation, innovative. You're exploring and coming up with entirely new concepts, new tools, new devices, coming up with widgets which will help you to solve current problems. You are not dealing with something which is already existent, right? You do not have to adapt. When you're innovating, you do not have to adapt something. You come up with something entirely new, novel, so to speak. Now, interesting that we have to discuss the novel coronavirus. A bit of research online and shows that this virus, coronavirus, has been there before, but now the 2019 version is a novel one, meaning that it is found a way of actually replicating itself, making more duplicates of itself, and in a very new way which no one has ever thought of before. It is not your standard virus that you know, which is, this one is much faster. Its mode of its mode of transference is also different, and it's baffling. No solutions have yet been found to it. Hence, it is called novel coronavirus. So as you can see, creativity is not only limited to human beings, even animals and other creatures can also be innovative. They can find new ways of solving current problems of replication. Okay. So when it comes to coronavirus, you think, are we going to use an old vaccine that has been changed or modified, or are we going to have to come up with an innovative solution or an innovative vaccine to this virus? Do we then have to come up with a novel vaccine to solve the novel coronavirus? This is the question that now, when you're looking at adapters and innovators, there are several characteristics pertaining to adaptation. When you're being adaptive, obviously you need more structure. It's a very structured approach. Creativity through adaptation is a bit structured. Structured meaning that the steps have been outlined. Step 1, step 2, and so on. You don't depart from old approaches. Okay. And often, unlike adapters or adaptive creative style, the innovative one requires less structure, right? A bit like brainstorming. There is no structure. You will deal with the ideas as they come. So there is less structure, there is less formality, and there is less order to it. The idea is to generate as many ideas before you can filter them and come up with the correct one. In other words, no idea that has been put forward, for example, to solve coronavirus, will ever be dismissed. It will have to be considered and on its own merit and dealt with accordingly. Who knows, there might be a novel solution out there. Now, adaptive style involves solving problems by refine the problem, make it clearer, make the problem clearer, elaborate, and improve the already considered ideas, the already held ideas. So that is what they mean by paradigm. A paradigm is an orthodoxy, an idea which is already held, taken to be true, and then you say, okay, if it's like this, then why don't we understand it better, right? For example, if you're dealing with a virus, a known virus that has already been dealt with, then you need to find ways of understanding it better, maybe using better tools to understand it, better high-powered microscopes, for example, to understand the current problem. A innovative creative style solves problems by breaking, modifying, eliminating, replacing the current paradigms. Okay, you are actually overhauling the whole system, to come up with new ideas, right? You are breaking from the status quo. Sometimes they say it like that. You are departing, making a radical departure from popularly held ideas. And you do this by modifying, eliminating completely. You eliminate something completely. Maybe you no longer use petrol, you are now using solar power. You see, before anyone thought of solar power, everyone was using steam and petrol coal to generate power. But now when someone comes up with using solar power, he has completely eliminated the need for those old power sources. Also, adaptive style prefer incremental, predictable change. In other words, it is more, like we said before, it is structured. The structures, the steps that have to be dealt with, that have to be followed, have been laid down. And time and again, every time, you have to use that in solving problems. It emphasizes doing things better. All right. The adaptive style emphasizes doing all things better. innovative creative style prefer radical and transformational change. It is more a cold turkey approach from one system to another system, from manual to digital. It's a big jump, right? Imagine you're doing paperwork, but now you have to use online submissions, online applications. That is a radical transformation, it's a radical change. You're doing things entirely differently. And that is another way of being creative, right? So one can ask right here, which approach do you feel is more difficult to apply? And which approach do you feel is more rewarding? Now, let us look at some creativity drills. And before we do that, we must accept that creativity can be learned. It is not an innate skill. It's not like some people are born with creativity, or some people are naturally creativity and others will not ever be creative. It's not like that. So creativity can be learned, and it can become a habit. It can be part of you, always being an acrobat and imagining new ways of doing things, or changing, altering things and doing them better. So we can now look at creativity. Now, if the approach is an adaptive approach, you will see that it will be structured, it will be logical, it will be linear, not lateral. Some of the mental blocks that will limit creativity have to be dealt with in order for you to become creative. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to remove those negative thoughts and really believe in yourself that you can actually be creative, come up with some new concept, and drive the idea through to success. You will realize that those who were creative in the past also were able to challenge the prevailing orthodoxy. In other words, they are able to challenge what was believed to be true at that time. You know that for a while everyone believed that the sun moves around the earth, right? And not the earth moving around the sun. And yet it is actually the earth that moves around the sun. And you'll know that long time ago, those people who were able to challenge the orthodoxies were actually some were put to death, unfortunately. Another example of challenging the status quo is the case of malaria. For a long time, it was believed that malaria was caused by bad air that would come through the windows because of open windows. When in fact, we know that when you open your windows, in flies mosquitoes that carry the malarial parasite. Okay, so it was actually somebody who challenged the orthodoxy and said, no, you are wrong. It is not the open windows. It is something that comes with the open windows, and you're missing something. Okay, so challenging the status quo, to be able to do that, really you have to believe in yourself. You must remove all hindrances to self-belief. You must remove all the mental blocks. So start with yourself and have self-belief and conviction. This can be done by removing the T from it can't be done. you can actually say it can be done. Now, when you're looking at things from various perspectives, you're trying to be creative. You need to be flexible. You don't need to be caught up with a very rigid mindset, and you have to have imagination as well. Take, for example, a simple case of this diagram, the diagram by Kuhn. You will see that if you look at it from one dimension only, it is this can be considered to be a duck facing the left. But if you think more carefully, you realize that these are actually the ears of a rabbit, a hare, which is facing the right. So, looking at problems from different perspectives, we'll be able to generate new ideas and challenge old thinking, and you come up with better things or new ways of doing old things. A creativity approach known as the Scamper methods has been developed. It entails substituting, combining, amplifying, modifying, putting to other use, eliminating, and reversing concepts, ideas, or implements. Now, if you're substituting, we can still go back to that example I gave, where I'm saying that instead of using leaded petrol, why not use unleaded petrol? Or instead of using petroleum or petroleum products, diesel, why not use solar power? So we are substituting solar power or solar energy for petroleum in driving cars. You now have electric cars, right? Or you have solar cells in the desert generating electricity. Instead of relying on hydroelectric power, the country can also now think of using electric solar cells in the desert on a large scale, just like being done in Egypt. You can also combine two things to come up with something new. Combinations in pairs, right? That is how you end up having planes, because now you're using what was used to generate electricity to drive motors, now being used to drive cars, right? To generate combustion engines were being used only to produce electricity for heating, driving, dams and so on. But now it is being used to drive cars. So you can also amplify, make something bigger, okay, and more useful. Modify, you change the shape, the color, so that it looks better, and find new use. Put to other uses. All things that were thrown away, maybe tires, cannot be used to make chairs, right? New uses for old things which have been thrown away, right? Or you eliminate waste, for example. How do you do that? You eliminate what was causing the problem in the first place. And finally, reversing. I can give you a simple example. Maybe you're a designer working for the advertiser. You design a logo. By simply clicking somewhere, you can reverse, and then the picture now fades into the background. Instead of black background and white text, now you have only black text coming up to the front. Okay, so that is reversing, and it looks very, very different from the original piece. Now finally, we'll be looking at this drill, which is the thinking hats drill, to problem solving. Imagine that you as a discussant, someone who's discussing a problem in a group, in a team, you have 6 different hats which you can all wear, right? You can wear a hat which makes you intuitive, meaning that you have a sense, a sixth sense, and you are able to anticipate problems before they show up. You can wear a hat which deals with being informative. You deal only with the facts, information, or wear a hat which will look at the problem from a constructive point of view, right? Alternatively, you can also wear a hat where you reflect, you revise, you review things as they are. Or you can wear a hat where you are creative. All of you in that discussion panel certainly think of the problem from a creative perspective, as we've already done or studied. And then also you can wear a hat where you are cautious. Now all these hats, as you can see, have different colors, and the colors have some meaning, just to help you understand the drill better. Thinking hats drill was developed by someone, I lost his name a few moments ago, but it's a well-known drill in training as well. Now, quickly again, the white hat, when you wear the white hat, you'll be asking questions of what the facts are. You're looking at the problem, whether it's coronavirus or whatever problem it is. You sit around a table and then you ask yourself, what are the facts on the ground? Not hearsay, not rumors, not grapevine or anything of that nature. You need to look at the facts as they are and start from there. Okay, so everyone should wear that hat at the beginning of the discussion. Now the yellow hat, unlike the black hat, which is down there, okay, the yellow hat supposes reflects the sun. You know, the sun is bright, it's yellow and it's warm, and it tries to come up with solutions to problems. So when you wear the yellow hat, think of what workable solutions can be generated. All of you at that table should think positive. What solutions do we have to this problem that we are dealing with? The black hat encourages you to approach the problem cautiously. Look at the negative side. What if? Ask yourself, what if this does not work? Okay, you are no longer optimistic, like in the yellow hat, but you are the red hat, red like in heart. The red hat deals with emotions, feelings of stakeholders. Every problem or every action that you are going to take at management level or at board level or at a serious conference would have to appreciate the feelings of the stakeholders. Okay, how do they feel about it before you bring up new solutions? The green hat is now the creative thinking part, right? After you've looked at all the possibilities, you've brainstormed, you need to find creative ways of dealing with the problem. So during critical thinking discussion, this hat fuels the stakeholders' thinking to innovate thinking, creative solutions. So green is for go, G-O is for go. It means you are going ahead, you are coming up with creative. The blue hat is a control plan or a control process where managers will manage difficulties that arise during discussions. For a moment, everyone will stop and wear a blue hat, and then they will discuss modalities on how to go about running that brainstorming session. This is like housekeeping and dealing with issues on how to protocols, procedures, and so on and so forth before you can resume wearing other hats. So it's a time out. This is a time out to allow you to quickly get everything back in order. Moderator. Now finally, there is this assignment. You are dealing with this current problem of the coronavirus, a novel coronavirus, which is a virus which was there before, but which has taken on a new dimension because it has developed another attribute, and people know less about it than any other of the viruses. So think about it by wearing the critical thinking hats, the 6 of them, the 6 hats, and try to brainstorm and moderate this discussion in order to generate new ideas on how to solve the coronavirus. This will be your assignment for submission within the next few weeks. Thank you so much.